Hello, today I have quite a bit of work to do. I have a Algebra 2 sheet right here, rules of exponents, graded assignment. I need to get these right, so I'm going to take a certain amount of time to actually do these. Let me turn the volume on my voice down a little bit. Let's see if that's better. Alright, that's where I'm gonna leave it. I have 2 more of these sheets to do tonight, so I may be streaming for about maybe 3 hours to get this all done. I also have this balancing chemical equations that I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to do the math because these 2 are due Friday. So I'm gonna set these both to the side and start on my math. Excuse me, the chemistry. And I don't know how I'm gonna read these out. I may possibly do it. Just let me know if the music or my voice is too loud at any point. Let me get right into it. Na plus H2O goes to NaOH plus H2. First thing I'm going to look at is the Na. Both have 1. H's both have 2. There's both 2 1s, but oh no, there's 1 H right here. So that equals 3 H's and on this side and 1 H on, or 2 H's on this side. So that means I'm going to have to take this formula and multiply it by 3 to get 6 H's, because it's a multiple of 3. And to get 6 H's over here, I'm going to have to multiply this one by 4. So let me count. Na, this one would have to be multiplied by 4. Na4 on this side, Na4 on this side. H would be 6 on this side. H4, 5, 6 on this side. O would be 3, and O would be 4. That's going to be a problem. So what I would have to do is change this right here. Let me just start over. I may be doing it wrong. Let me try, instead of doing the Na first, I'll do the H, or I'll do the O first. But the O's are balanced. So I'm gonna have to start on the H's. H2, H2, this is 3. So maybe instead of making this 4, I can make this. This would have to be an odd number, so maybe I can do 2 here and 2 here. Should make this 4, and this one 2. Should make 6. Make this a 3. But the O's right there, the oxygens, would be 3 and 2. I can go ahead and make this a 2. So what if I change this to a 3? What would I have to do to the h's? 3 O's, 3 O's. This would be 6. This would be 3 h's. And I think it would actually be better to go ahead and multiply the whole formula by 2. Because I would have to have a, what do you call it? A fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses in 2. So each one is multiplied by a 2. NA would be 2. NA 2. So we'd still have 4 h's. 4 h's plus this 2h, which would make 6. And this would be 4. Which means, let me bring a 2 down, which would make this, so it'd be 4, 8, and then 9 and 10. Which should make this have to be 5. I'm definitely doing something wrong. I will come back to that later, because my brain isn't working at this moment in time. Go ahead and circle. Unable to connect to chat. Let me refresh it real quick. Alright, let me go ahead and do this one. AG2, AG1, so I'm going to have to make this a 2. O, O2. We're going to have to make this a 2 to equal that O over there. And because that equals 4, 2 times 2, we're going to have to make this 4. Let me see if it's balanced. AG4, AG4, O2, O2. It's balanced. Let me go ahead and write it out. Alright, moving on to 14. S8 plus O2 goes to SO3. So what I'm going to do is look at the S's first. This is 1, this has 8. And see, there's a right there. So I'm going to have to give me just a second. Back. I am going to continue working on this problem. So S would be 8, S8. Now right here we have O2, and over here O would be 8, 16, 24. So I'd have to make, so 24 divided by 2 would be 12. So let me make sure the equation's balanced. S8, S8, O2 times 12 is
So why don't you go
24.
like mommy and poppy?
024. 8, 16, 24. 024. It is balanced.
Okay.
How do you know?
I just do.
Party of 5.
Go ahead and
The
write it
story
out.
of an American family tonight at 9.
Light up your holidays and your driveway with the new Hyundai
12,
from Massey Hyundai during the
2
Hyundai Holiday Sales
goes
Event.
to
Give yourself the gift that
8
keeps giving with big
S
savings like these.
O
Get 0%
3.
for 72 months on the all-new 2020 Hyundai Elantra or 0% for 72 months on the all-new 2020 Hyundai Santa Fe. And no payments
I'm gonna wait for
until
this
next
ad to go
year.
by.
Tis the season to light up the holidays at Massey Hyundai.
Go ahead and write in my section titles for these
Online
name.
at MasseyHyundai.com.
Your friends are over, the music is pumping, and requests are coming in fast. Then something hits you harder than a bass drop. It's tough to DJ with only shuffle play, but it's
I've already
easier
gotten
to take
on this
control with
one.
Spotify Premium. You
I'd
can
have to
pick
look
any
at my
song
phone,
anytime
just
you
recording
like.
right now.
Ready to get the party started? Tap the banner to learn more.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started again. CO2 plus H2O goes to C6H12O6 plus O2. So first we're going to look at the carbons. Right here we have 1 carbon, here we have 6 carbons. So I'm going to go ahead and make this equation right here and put in 6 of them to equal the 6 carbons. Now, since those are balanced, we're going to look at, if you look right here, there are 2 oxygens. I don't know if you can see. So we're going to do the oxygens last. Right here we have 2 H's. So this would be H12. So I would have to make this a 6 because 2 times 6 is 12. So that would equal out right there. Now that we got the C's and the H's balanced, we're going to look at the O's. On this side we have 12 O's, on this side we have 6 O's. Or, no, you add them together. 12 plus 6 equals 18. Right here we have 6, 7, 8. So what we're going to have to do, what did I say right here? Was it 18? Let me count again. 6, 12, 6. Yeah, it would be 18. 6 plus what is 18? 12. So I'd have to do 12 divided by 2. And then 12 divided by 2 would be 6. So let me make sure this equation is balanced. 6 C's on this side, 6 C's on this side. 12 H's on this side, 12 H's on this side. 18 O's on this side. 6, 12. 18 O's on this side, so it is a balanced equation. Go ahead and write it down. Plus 6H2O goes to C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Move on to number 16. K plus MgBr2 goes to KBr plus Mg. Tyson Peter said, "Read the chat, dum-dum." I am currently reading the chat, but I am not addressing the chat currently. So I'm going to move on to the next equation. We're going to look at K first since it only comes up one time in both the equations. And we see that there's only 1 in each of the equations, so they're already balanced. Next we're going to look at Mg. Mg is balanced because there is 1 of them. Once we get to bromine, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There's 2 here and 1 here, so we're going to have to bring this down, make it 2. So there's 2 bromines, they're equal. But see, there's a K right there, which would make 2 potassiums. So I'm going to make this potassium at 2. So 2 potassiums, 1 magnesium, 2 bromines, 2 bromines. It's balanced. I'm gonna go ahead and write it down. plus mg br2 goes to 2k br plus mg. Gonna move on to the last problem of this worksheet. HCl plus CaCO3 goes to CaCl2 H2O plus CO2. This one may take me a little bit of time to do because it's so long and there's probably a little bit of steps that I have to do. Alright, H shows up in each of them one time, so I'm going to look at the H here, there's 1, H here, there's 2, so I'm going to have to make this a 2. One thing I just thought of, maybe, let me make sure y'all be able to see the paper. There we go. That should be okay. Okay. H2, H2. Now making this a 2 would make the Cl go to 2. So far H and Cl are balanced. Then we go to Ca. There's one Ca here and one Ca here. That looks pretty good to me. We go to carbon. One carbon, one carbon. Balanced. Then we're going to go to the oxygen. There's 2 oxygens on this side. So when there's 3 oxygens here, 2 oxygens here, and 1 here, which means there's 3 oxygens. Which means it should be balanced, but I'm going to go over it one more time just in case. 2 H's, 2 H's, 1 Cl, or 2 Cl, 2 Cl, 1 Ca, 1 Ca, 1 carbon, 1 carbon, 3 oxygens, 1, 2, 3 oxygens. It is a balanced equation. I'm going to go ahead and write it down. I'm going to have to write kind of small because this is a long equation and my lead just broke. CaCl2 plus H2O plus CO2. If you look at it, we only had to change one thing out of this whole equation to balance it. Have to keep making sure that paper's in the middle of the screen. And I don't know if it's currently broadcasting at HD quality. Let me see. 1920 by 1080. Yep, you can change it. You actually have to go to the settings and go to the quality and change it to get the real thing. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to make sure the paper's in the right place. I'm going to go to 9 because I skipped that earlier because I couldn't figure out what to do. Alright, let's see if I can do it. I'm going to take these parentheses out. Alright, carbon shows up once in each of them. There's 8 carbons here and 1 carbon here. So I'm going to make this an 8. There's 1 H here and 1 H here. So H has 18, this H has 2. 18 divided by 2 would be 9. Oh, there's 2 oxygens here, and let me count real quick. 8, 16, 9. 16 plus 9, which would be 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So in order to make this a 25, 25 divided by 2 would be 12.5, which means I can't do that. This is, so I was right to go ahead and multiply the whole thing by 2. So now if I do 8 and 9 here, they'll be balanced, or they should be. Let me check real quick. There would be 16 carbons, 16 carbons. There would be 36 hydrogens, and then 4 times 9, 18, 27, 36. 36 hydrogens here. And this would be 4 oxygens, and this would be 2 oxygens, plus 4 oxygens, which would be 6 and 4. Which means what I would have to do is... Lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay. So it'd be 8, 16. 16 times 2 is 32. And then 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 32. Go ahead and go to the side and do that. Just 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5. I've already done it up here. So it'd be 50. 50 divided by 2 is 25. But that would be 4, so I wouldn't have to... This isn't making sense to me. I'll have to go in and ask about this, because it'd still be divided by 4 instead of 2. So maybe... I don't know. I'm just going to leave it circled and ask her about that tomorrow. And then right here, should be simple enough. Na, Na. Those are balanced. H, 2 H's, 2 H's, plus that 1 H, so I'm not going to do that yet. And then we have 1 oxygen and 1 oxygen. So they're balanced except for the H's. So we have an H2 and an H3 here. So what I'm going to have to do, since there's 3, there's 2 here, 3, in order to make this 6, I would have to make this one right here an even number. So 2 hydrogens, which should equal 4. So which means I would have to do a 4 here. Work my letter again. So let me see if this is equal. 6 H's, 4 H's, plus 2 H's equals 6 H's. But now the Na and the O are off. Na would have to be 4. O is 3. O is 4 here. But this one has to be an even number. I could try multiplying the whole thing by 2. Let me try doing that. Alright. So Na and Na would still be good. O's would still be good. But this would be 4 H's, 4 H's, and 2 H's. So that would be 6. And then I can make this H. It would be 4H. I can make it 8. Could I do that? I'm going to go ahead and make it 8 by putting a 2 there. So this H would be 2 and 4, which would be 6. If I make this a 2, then it'd make 2, 4H, and a 4H. Should make that 8 H's. And now that I do that, I'd have to... Nope, this would be balanced. O would be balanced. Give me a second. from the dead. So I think this may be the solution. Let me go ahead and try it. 2 NAs. Actually, that would be... I would have to make this a 2. Because this would be 2NA times 2. Which would equal 4. Which means this would be 4 NAs. That's balanced.
Encuentra música romántica.
Go ahead and turn this down because I don't want to hear the ads.
Oh, come on.
Let's see. O, which would be 2, which would be 4. 2, 4 O's. H's would be 4 times 2, which is 8. H would be 2 times 2, which is 4. And this H would be 2 times 2, which is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. So this is a balanced equation. I'm going to write it out.
For the first time in history, you can be confident in the price of your new car, even if you don't know anything about the price of cars. Auto Trader, the only one with Kelly Blue Book.
And I'm going to be done with this worksheet right here. Time to move on to my math worksheet. Rules of exponents. Let's see what I can do. Pretty sure I have to do the numerator first. So this would be v to the first, which is 1. Or v to the 0 is 1. So it'd be 2 to the third, which is 2, 4. 4 times 2, which is 8. So it'd be u 4 v 4 times 8 times 4, 8, 12, v to the 12th over u to the second, v to the 4th. Let's see if I can simplify that down even more. So it would be 8 u to the 4th v to the 4th times v to the 12th. I'm actually going to go ahead and add that in. 12, when you times it, it'd be 12 plus 4, which would be 16, over u2 v4. So the answer to this equation would be, and then what you would do is minus out these two. So it would be 8 u to the second v to the 12th. And I think that is the answer. I am not 100% sure, so I'm going to check if you multiply the 8 by both of them or by one of them real quick. when I just realized my mic was up that whole time. Okay. Go ahead and equal it. Make the 2, which would be 4, times 2, which would be 8, x to the 9th, over x to the negative 3rd, y to the, you would have to, y to the 6th. Since that's negative, you'd move it up here, which would make it equal to 8x 9 plus, no, it'd be times x to the 3rd over y to the 6th. Then I'm going to move it down here, and this would all equal 8 to the xth, 8x, no, what am I thinking? 8x 9, 10, 11, 12 to the 12th over y to the 6th. There we go. Let me make sure this is in the middle. Alright, gonna move on to number 3. So I'm just gonna do top and then bottom. So it'd be 2u. Hold on, I'm gonna have to write this part out, and then times 0 would be, this whole thing equals 1. So the whole thing doesn't even exist. So it'd be that over 2u to the negative 6th v to the 2nd. Alright, we don't need all that space. I'm going to equal it to 2u negative 4th v to the 3rd over, this would actually go up there, so I'm going to extend that and just put the v squared down here. It would be times 2u 6th. Then that would be equal to, hold on, if that one's being pulled up, then this one needs to be pulled down, which would be times 2u to the 4th. And that would equal to 2u to the 6th v to the 3rd over 2u to the 4th v to the 2nd. And let's see, that would be our final answer, because we cannot simplify that any further. And make sure these other ones can. I'm not going to simplify them right now anyway. So I'm going to put 2u 6 v to the 3rd over 2u to the 4th v to the 3rd. Excuse me, 2nd. That looks like a big 2. And put a bubble around that, make sure they know that's the answer. Alright, xy to the 4th. So I'm going to go ahead and write down the top, even though we don't do anything to it at this point. This would be x to the 6th, and then just a regular y. We don't need that much space, which would equal I think that would be the final answer. Let me check real quick. You know what? I just realized I didn't simplify this problem down enough. So I'm gonna go back and do that. But what you would do is 2u 6th minus 4, which would be 2u to the 2nd, but that 2 is also being divided, so it'd be u to the 2nd v to the just be v. That should be the final answer. Going to check real quick to see if that's what you do. I don't have any examples on that, so if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And she will probably explain it to me. Alright, let's see. So it'd be x. Since that's the simplest form it will get to right now, it'd be the final answer, so I'm going to put it out here. X to the negative, because it'd be 1 minus 6, so it'd be negative 5, because 1 minus 6 is negative 5. And then y would be, no, this wouldn't be the final answer because I have to put that in the denominator. And then y would be for minus 1, which would be 3, which would equal y to the 3rd over x to the 5th. Alright. Moving over to number 5. y0, which is just 1. So the problem would be 1 over all of this. I'm not even going to write this hot part. I'm just going to try to remember that. So I'm going to bring x negative 2 y to negative 2 times x to the 3rd y minus 1. I'm gonna mute it during the music real quick. Alright, now that we have this, it's gonna be x to the, because it's multiplying, it'd be x, just x, because those cancel out. They wouldn't cancel out, they would just add together, and then y to the negative 3rd, and that's also in the denominator, so I need to move that y up, so it would be final answer y to the 3rd over x. That one was pretty simple. Alright, let's see what I can do for this one. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and just leave these here. Multiplied by, this would be 1 squared, which is 1, which means it cancels out. Hold on. No, it's the m that is the 1, so it'd be negative 2 times 1, which is is negative 2 squared, which would be positive 4. So it'd be times 4 here. And then we would have PM to the 3, 6, 9 and then we would have n to the 6th. So this would equal, actually, this whole thing is 1, so it'd just be 4 m to the negative 1st, n to the 4th, p to the negative 2nd, over pm9 n 6. Then the negatives would go down and would be 4 n to the 4th over m to the negative 1st, or no, m to the 1st. I'm gonna just put these parentheses, p to the 2nd, and then those two would be times p m9 n 6, and that would equal 4n to the 4th over, so if they were multiplying, it'd go from left to right, so it'd be mp squared. No, I wouldn't have to do that. I'd just have to, p would be 3, p to the 3rd, m to the 10th, and n to the 6th. But if you look at that, we have an n up here, so we're not done. We would actually have to do 4 over p to the 3rd, m to the 10th, and n to the 2nd, because they would cancel out right there. Or it would be 6 minus 4, which would be 2. So that should be the final answer. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the back. Turn my headphones on because I can hear music now. I'm also gonna get a sip of water real quick. Make sure my playlist is still the same thing. Yep. Playlist is good. Alright. Time to move on to the next problem. Should be negative z squared y to the 4th over y squared minus x to the 3rd z to the negative 3rd. Alright, good so far. So, negative z. I'm actually going to put the little line to indicate that it's a z. Y to the 4th. And then we're actually going to move this z up So it'd be z to the negative third. Or nope, it'd be just z to the third. And it'd be y squared minus x to the third. Then what we can do is combine these, which would equal negative z to the, yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd be negative z to the fifth, because you're adding y to the fourth over y squared minus x to the third. Now see how we still have those two y's right there, so we're not done with the equation. So I'm going to come down here, negative z to the fifth, and then see how that's a bigger number, y to the second, and then over negative x to the third. See how these are all different variables? That means we're done. I'm going to put a circle around that, call that problem done. Alright. Ooh, so here we have one where the whole equation is negative. First time I've seen like something like that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do 2 times 2, which is 4, which would be 1 x squared z to the negative first over negative x sixth y to the 12th. Alright, we're not done because there's still 2 x's here. So we're going to do 4. Nope, the x is going to win on the bottom, so it'd be 4z to the negative first, up, and we have to move the z down to the bottom, so it'd just be 4 on the top, I'm pretty sure. 4 over, I should probably move the lamp so it'd be better to see. There we go. Now you can better see the problems. Alright, so it'd be negative x to the 4th, y to the 12th, and z, it'd just be z. And I think that's done. Pretty sure that's a done equation because they're all different. Alright, moving on to number 9. Alright. P, M. Actually, P would be to the second. What if I missed that on A? M to the 8th. N to the 6th. Over this long, let's just multiplying them together, which means 2. Hold on, let me go ahead and, that's just 1. Negative 2m to negative second, n to the second, p to the would it be? Just be p. Alright. Which equals, see what we can do to this. Go ahead and p squared m8. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and get this negative m in here. Be m to the 6th n to the 6th. That would be over negative 2 n to the 2nd p. Now we still got that n, so it can get smaller, and the p. So I'm gonna go ahead. I think this may be the final solution for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and this p up here is gonna win against this one, so it would be p m to the 6th, and then n to the 4th, all over negative 2. Because this n cancel out and this p cancel out. They're all different, so I would call that a final answer. Alright, time to move on to number 10. Alright, this whole thing. Hold on. I forgot number 8. Forgot the whole thing was negative. So that would actually, the answer would be negative 4 over x to the 4th y to the 12th z. That would be the actual answer to this equation because of that negative. And you wouldn't multiply all of them by the negative because they're all in that one little equation. There we go. Alright. Whole thing is to the negative first, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. 2x, actually, be 1 over 2x to the 4th, y to the 4th, times, would it still be negative?
From Gimlet, a tale
Negative
of two
y
princes whose love saved
to
their
the negative
kingdoms,
4th.
and the
I think
sorceress
that'd be
would
right.
take it all away.
It's a new beginning for all our people.
That's why it
Gonna
would be
mute whatever
such
this
a
is.
pity if it all came
Then I'm gonna
tumbling
do
down.
negative
Don't
2.
worry. I promise whatever happens, I'll keep you and
Wait, this would
kingdom
actually be
safe.
All episodes of the Two
1 over
Princes
1,
are
which
out
would be
now. Tap now to listen for free on Spotify.
which would
This is
just be
Master
1.
Raj, fourth generation owner of Community Coffee.
Would it be
My great
negative?
grandfather named it Community, just out of appreciation and respect for his friends and neighbors.
I'll have
And
to.
for 100 years, our family
I'm
has
just
been
gonna
about
leave it
two
negative for
things:
now, but I'll have to
great
ask that
tasting coffee
tomorrow.
and great people.
So then
And
we
as
would have
America's
another
#1
1
family-owned
over
retail
2.
coffee brand, we believe it's our responsibility
This time would be 1
to
over
continue to
negative
give them
2.
the best tasting coffee experience possible. And
Yep,
it's why
maybe
we're
it'd be
excited
1
for
over
you to discover
negative
your new
1,
favorite blend.
which
Look for
would
Community
be
Coffee at a
negative
store near
1.
you.
So yeah,
When's the last time you checked your credit score?
then
Those 3-digit scores can have a
x
huge
to
impact on your
the
financial life. Credit
negative
Karma can
first,
help you with free scores,
y
reports,
to
and free
the
monitoring.
negative second,
Credit Karma
and
also gives
z
you the tips, tools, and advice you
to
need
the
to understand
negative
your
third.
credit and how to improve it. You can even spot potential errors on your credit report. That can mean better interest rates on loans and credit cards.
Ready for
which
these
can save you
ads. Maybe I
thousands of
should
dollars
get
in the long run.
Spotify Premium.
Signing up is completely free. No credit card needed. Visit creditkarma.com or download
Alright,
the Credit Karma app
so now I'm going to move on. Then I'm going to go ahead and situate the negatives. So start with 1/2, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. Then we wouldn't count this, but we would count x to the 1st, y to the 2nd, and z to the 3rd. all over 1 over negative 2 times y to the negative 4th. Or no, y to the 4th. Go ahead and get all those down to the proper numbers. X to the 5th, y to the 6th, z to the 3rd, over 1 over negative 2, y to the 4th. Now we're going to have to get rid of this y. And maybe we can even get rid of this 1/2 right here. So it'd be 1/2 x to the 5th, y to the 2nd, because it'd take away 4, z to the 3rd. And then I would do just 1 over negative half. 1 over negative 2. Alright. So now I can do 1/2 divided by 1/2. Which I forgot what that would be. So I'm going to quickly half 0.5 times 0.5 negative 2 times 2, which is 4. No, hold on, 0.5 to oh, I did an extra thing, so it was it'd be 0.5 times negative should equal negative 0.25, which should be negative 1 over 4. But would it go into the numerator or stay in the denominator? I'm just gonna leave it like this for now because I have no clue. Or I could 1/2 run 0.5 divided by 0.5 equals 1. So it'd just be negative 1. So it'd just be negative. Yep. I accidentally pressed the multiply instead of the divide, so there's my math. I'm going to go ahead and put these up. I will be right back. You know what time it is. It's time for some notes. So I'm actually gonna zoom out here. Adjust the camera a little bit. Give me a wider. Alright, should be good. Alright. Let me see what I'm gonna have to do. So I'm definitely gonna do this one right here tonight. I may not do the other one tonight, but I possibly may get started on it or something. 554. Alright, it's about European empires in the Americas. Alright, give me just a second. Alright, I think I'm ready to get started. So, the first section I'll probably get like one bullet. Maybe two. Among the early modern empires, those of Western Europe were distinct because of the conquered territories lay an ocean away from the imperial heartland, rather than adjacent to it. Following the breakthrough voyages of Columbus, the Spanish focused their empire-building efforts in the Caribbean and then, in the early 16th century, turned to the mainland, with stunning conquest of the powerful but fragile Aztec and Inca empires. Meanwhile, the Portuguese established themselves along the coast of present-day Brazil. In the early 17th century, the British, French, and Dutch launched colonial settlements along the eastern coast of North America. From these beginnings, Europeans extended their empires to encompass most of the Americas, at least nominally. By the mid-18th century, it was a remarkable achievement. What made it possible? Question mark. Alright. Let me see what I can get out of this. Spanish to Caribbean. I'm just gonna write Spanish. Focused on Caribbean. Caravan. Let me see. Is there anything else other than Portuguese? Portuguese. Where's Portuguese? Portuguese. On present day Brazil. And British, French, and Dutch. British, French.
Hey Spotifyers, click or tap the banner to listen to Motivation Mints, uplifting and
Dutch.
energetic music that helps you stay motivated. Brought to you by our friends at Booking.com. From hotels with
Dutch.
fitness centers to vacation homes with lap pools, Booking.com has an accommodation
On
to help you stay motivated to achieve
Eastern,
any resolution.
Eastern.
Holiday shopping is expensive. Also a fact,
Coast
Honey makes holiday shopping less expensive.
of
Honey is the free browser
North
extension that scans the internet for working coupon
America.
codes, then automatically applies the one with the biggest savings to your cart. We know what you're thinking. Holiday shopping just got
Wow,
so much
holiday
smarter.
shopping
So pump
just
up the
got
holiday
so
jams
smarter.
and join the more than 10 million members who are already saving. Click the banner or add Honey for free at joinhoney.com.
Actually, that was the first section, so
That's joinhoney.com.
you know what that means. Highlighter time. I don't know how I made it through first semester doing this like one time a week. How did I forget these? Alright. See how big this next section is to see how much I would really need. So it's like 1 and like 1/4 pages. So maybe out of, let me see how many pages it goes to. Wait, did she say she wanted me to do the Columbian Exchange? I can't remember. Hold on, I'm gonna have to use my phone for just a second to look something up. Crap, I'm not ready. Oops. There we go. Go ahead and tighten the bolt. Alright. So, in that time, I looked up if I needed to. I changed it from 561 to 563 because she wanted me to do that, and went ahead and wrote this down for the next section. Alright, so if this is like 1¼ page, it's gonna go down to about here, I would say. Maybe somewhere around here. Alright. The European advantage. And if you didn't know, I actually go through each paragraph to pick out stuff that I might want to look at, want to write down. So yeah. Geography provides a starting point for explaining Europe's American empires. Countries on the Atlantic rim of Europe, Portugal, Spain, Britain, and France, were simply closer to the Americas than were any potential Asian competitors. Furthermore, the fixed winds of the Atlantic blew steadily in the same direction. Once these air currents were understood and mastered, they provided a far different maritime environment than the alternating monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean, in which Asian powers had long operated. European innovations in map-making, navigation, sailing techniques, and ship design, building on earlier models from the Mediterranean, Indian Ocean, and Chinese regions, likewise enabled Europeans to penetrate the Atlantic Ocean. The enormously rich markets of the Indian Ocean world provided little incentive for its Chinese, Indian, or Muslim participants to venture much beyond their own waters. Alright. I can definitely get something out of this paragraph. Europe? So I'm going to put something about how Europe had an advantage over... Maybe I can zoom it in a little bit. See how it looks on the tube. Alright, it looks just fine. Alright, so Europe had advantage. What did they have an advantage? Of exploration? Is that what their advantage was? Europe had an advantage for American exploration because of geography. Maybe there's difference. European innovations. May want to list these out, possibly. basically because of geography, innovation, European innovation, and incentive. I think those are pretty good reasons right there. Basically sums up the whole paragraph. I think I did an okay job of that. Wow, it's already 11:10. Alright. Gonna go ahead and make another bullet point. Let's see how long this next paragraph is. I may be able to get 2 bullets, or 2 small bullets, or 1 big one from this one because it's kind of large. Alright, let me go ahead and start reading. Europeans, however, were powerfully motivated to do so. After 1200 or so, European elites were increasingly aware of their region's marginal position in the rich world of Eurasian commerce and were determined to gain access to that world. Once the Americas were discovered, windfalls of natural resources, including highly productive agricultural lands, drew further expansion, ultimately underpinning the long-term growth of the European economy to the 19th and 20th centuries. Beyond these economic and ecological stimuli, rulers were driven by the enduring rivalries of competing states, the growing and relatively independent merchant class, and a rapidly commercing Europe sought direct access to Asian wealth to avoid the reliance on Muslim intermediaries that were found so distasteful. Impoverished nobles and commoners alike found opportunity for gaining wealth and status in the colonies. Missionaries and others were inspired by crusading zeal to enlarge the realm of Christendom. Prosecuted minorities were in search of a new start in life. All of these compelling motives drove the relentlessly expanding imperial frontier in the Americas. Summarizing their intentions, one Spanish conquistador declared, "We came here to serve God and the king, and also to get rich." Yes, I am drinking water. Let's see what I can get from this paragraph. Let's see. Definitely something about maybe another list. Something about how Europeans wanted ecological stimuli. Europeans traveled to America to gain natural resources, again, just natural resources. The comma would stay because I'm gonna, let's see what I can do. Natural resources. And grow their economy in Eurasia. Okay.
Veamos las apps de música en
I think I
Control.
can get another one out of
Encuentra
this.
música romántica.
Estaba viendo la tele.
¿Me concedes este?
More people speaking languages I don't
Con
understand.
Contour TV de Cox encontrarás más que tus apps de música favorita. Encontrarás lo que te conecta.
Shuffling is
How
really
much
great
is
for some
Spotify
things,
Premium?
like showing off at poker night or dominating the dance floor when the big
I
beat
may
drops.
need to get that.
But what happens when shuffling isn't the right move?
Alright.
If you want to play your favorite song right now, you need Spotify Premium. With Premium, you'll leave shuffle behind and listen just the way you want. Tap the banner to learn more.
Alright, let's see what I can do. Muslim period number. Gaining wealth. Christians. So I'm just gonna put Christians. Impoverished nobles. Verished nobles. Prosecuted. Prosecuted minorities. And commoners. Traveled to America. I could say voyaged, but I'm not. Alright. Time to go to the next paragraph. In carving out these empires, often against great odds and with great difficulty, Europeans nonetheless bore certain advantages, despite their distance from home. Their states and trading companies enabled the effective mobilization of both human and material resources. Their seafaring technology, built on Chinese and Islamic precedents, allowed them to cross the Atlantic with growing ease, transporting people and supplies across great distances. Their ironworking technology, gunpowder weapons, and horses initially had no parallel in the Americas, although many people subsequently acquired them. Not really anything. Let me go over it one more time to see if there's anything I could need. Something about efficient technology. Europeans. I spelled Europeans wrong up here, so I'm going to change it. Let's see. Europeans. Technology. Spelled that wrong. Technology. Enabled easy transportation across the Atlantic. Basically the whole paragraph summed up. may need to put something in there about Chinese or Islam or something like that, but I think I'm good. Let's see how much I have left. Not much, so I need to start. I need to continue doing what I'm doing. Alright, where was I? Divisions? Divisions within and between local societies provided allies for the determined European invaders. Various subject people of the Aztec Empire, for example, resented Mexican domination and willingly joined Hernan Cortez in the Spanish assault on that empire. In the final attack on the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. What? Tenochtitlan. Cortes' forces contained fewer than 1,000 Spaniards and many times that number of Tlaxcalans, former subjects of the Aztecs. After their defeat, tens of thousands of Aztecs themselves joined Cortes as he carved out a Spanish Mesoamerican Where was I? As he carved out a Spanish Mesoamerica empire far larger than that of the Aztecs. Much of the Inca elite, according to a recent study, actually welcomed the Spanish invaders as liberators and willingly settled down with them to share a rule of Andean farmers and miners. A violent dispute between two rival contenders for the Inca throne, the brothers Abdullah and Huascar, certainly helped the European invaders recruit allies to augment their own minimal forces. In short, Spanish military victories were not solely out of their own making, but the product of alliances with local peoples, who supplied the bulk of the European conquering armies. Alright, I may get 1 or 2 or 3 out of this one. It's kind of packed full of stuff. Let's see. Local societies. Hernan, I'm going to say Hernan Cortez conquered Concord. I think that's how it's spelled. Probably not. Definitely not. The Aztec capital. Aztec capital. Let's see. With fewer than 1,000 Spanish and carved out a Spanish Mesoamerica named probably like Mexico. Let's see. America far larger than the Aztecs. Definitely get something about something else in there. I need to start drawing a line. That would definitely help me with doing this. Let's see. Much of the Inca elite, according to recent. Inca elite welcomed Spanish as liberators. Between two disputing Inca where does it say? Throne contenders. Just gonna put that. I'm gonna also put most of Spanish army came from alliances with the local civilizations and tribes. Boom. So yeah, the camera looking pretty good. Maybe I need to yeah, that's fine. Yep. Okay. Down to the last paragraph of this section. Perhaps the most significant of European advantages lay in the germs and diseases with which Native Americans had no familiarity. Those diseases decimated society after society, sometimes in advance of the Europeans' actual arrival. In particular regions such as the Caribbean, Virginia, and New England, the rapid buildup of immigrant populations, coupled with sharply diminished native numbers, allowed Europeans to actually outnumber local peoples within a few decades. Definitely can get something from that. Maybe even like 2. Let's see. Europeans brought diseases that natives had no familiarities. Europe outnumbered local peoples within a few decades. That's all I'm going to put. Alright, that's the end of this section. Go ahead and use the highlighter. I've already used the orange, so this time it is going to be boom, pink. And I highlight solely for the purpose of me there we go. How many more sections we got? 1, 2. 2 more sections left. Alright. Gonna take a little break for like maybe a minute or two. I'll be back.
Vemos que hay en las apps de música en Contour.
Claro. Encuentra música romántica.
Hey, estaba viendo la tele.
Ay, amor, es nuestra canción.
¿Me concedes este baile?
Oh, come on. Ok, ¿ya terminaron? Creo que necesitaré un psicólogo.
Con Contour TV de Cox encontrarás mucho más que tus apps de música favorita. Encontrarás lo que te conecta.
Auto Trader presents the best things to happen in the history of things that happened. First, nothing. Oh, then fire. Wheels. Then the internet.
Knowledge. Kinda.
And finally, Auto Trader with the Kelly Blue Book Price Advisor. For the first time in history, you can be confident in the price of your new car, even if you don't know anything about the price of cars. Auto Trader, the only one with Kelly Blue Book.
This is Matt Siraj, 4th generation owner of Community Coffee. My great-grandfather named it Community, just out of appreciation and respect for his friends and neighbors. And for 100 years, our family has been about 2 things: great tasting coffee and great people. And as America's #1 family-owned retail coffee brand, we believe it's our responsibility to continue to give them the best tasting coffee experience possible. And it's why we're excited for you to discover your new favorite blend. Look for Community Coffee at a store near you.
I can make this pencil disappear. Watch. Boom. It's gone. I can make it come back. Boom. Alright, let me get on this next section. Steaky. This one isn't. It's like 1/4, half, 1/3, 2/3, It's about 2 pages. Alright. Let's get on this. Whatever combination of factors explains the European acquisition of empires in the Americas, there is no doubting their global significance. Chief among the consequences was the demographic collapse of Native American societies. Although precise figures remain the subject of much debate, scholars generally agree that the pre-Columbian population of the Western Hemisphere was substantial, perhaps 60 to 80 million. The greatest concentrations of people lived in the Mesoamerican and Andean zones, which were dominated by the Aztec and Inca empires. Long isolation from the Afro-Eurasian world and the lack of most domesticated animals meant the absence of acquired immunities to Old World diseases such as smallpox, measles, typhus, influenza, malaria, and later, yellow fever. Alright, let's see what I can get out of this one. Dang it, this is gonna be such a long night. Alright. Chief among consequences was collapse of Native American societies. Biggest consequence. Biggest is spelled with 2 G's. Consequence. Pretty sure that's supposed to be a C. Of European acquisition was the collapse of Native American societies. I feel like this one's going to be a green. Alright. See, there's something else that I thought I could get out of this one. Oh, yep. Long isolation from the Afro-Eurasian world. I think it's resulted in lack of domesticated animals resulted in little or no immunity to old world diseases. Shall I list them? How much do I have left? Nah. These just kind of droop down. So I'm going to pick that up a little bit. There. Time for the next paragraph. Therefore, when Native American peoples came into contact with these Therefore, when Native American peoples came into contact with these European and African diseases, they died in appalling numbers, in many cases losing up to 90% of the population. As one recent historian has noted, it was as if the suffering of these diseases had caused in Eurasia over the past millennia were concentrated into the span of decades. The densely settled peoples of the Caribbean islands virtually vanished within 50 years of Columbus's arrival. Central Mexico, with a population estimated at some 10 to 20 million before the Spanish conquest, declined to about 1 million by 1650. A native Nahuatl account depicted the social breakdown that accompanied the smallpox pandemic. A great many died from this plague, and many others died of hunger. They could not get up to search for food, and everyone else was too sick to care for them, so they starved to death in their beds. I can maybe get one out of this. I'll try. Maybe two. I don't know. I'm just gonna say Native peoples. Alright. We're suffering from diseases. I'm trying to see where this is going. Diseases started in Europe. Greatly and rapidly making their total population decline. All right. Okay. Let's see how big this next paragraph is. Not that big. The situation was similar in Dutch and British territories of North America. A Dutch observer in New Netherland, later New York, reported in 1656 that the Indians affirmed that before the arrival of the Christians and before the smallpox broke out among them, there were 10 times as numerous as they are now, that their population had been melted down by disease, whereof 9/10 of them had died. To Governor Bradford of Plymouth Colony in present-day Massachusetts. Such conditions represented the good hand of God at work, sweeping away great multitudes of the natives. that he might make room for us. Not until the late 17th century did natives begin to recuperate somewhat from this catastrophe, and even then, they did not recover everywhere. That's pretty dark, how they're like wanting the natives to die really rapidly by disease. They don't want to spread.
Long before Shane McAnally was a hitmaker in Nashville, he was a poor kid from Texas with dreams of being a country music star. And that is when he got on the TV show Star Search.
My mom had this outfit made for me that was like green suede with like these long fringe
Let's see.
on it, and I looked like Glenn Campbell on crack.
I'm Alex Bloomberg. On Without Fail from Gimlet, I talk to all
Yeah,
kinds
it's still
of people about their failures on the path to success. Tap now to listen on Spotify.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover.
Alright, I
matches
can
all
list
the
something
cashback
about
you earn at the end of your first year automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Amazing! It's kind of like being showered with cash from above, which would also be pretty amazing. It's so amazing that millions of people a year are getting their cash back match.
I should say
Just can't go wrong.
Christians.
So whether it's raining down on your head or raining into your bank account, it's your cash back, and Discover is matching it. Discover Cashback Match. What are you
Wanted.
waiting for? Learn more at discover.com/match.
The natives
Been
to
thinking
die
about coming back to Spotify Premium. Now
so
that's a great idea. With
they
unlimited skips, ad-free
can
listening, and offline mode, upgrading to Premium is a no-brainer.
get
You can
land.
listen to any song, anywhere,
That's so
anytime,
dark.
without any limits. Ready to go Premium? Tap the
Alright.
button to learn more.
I think that's all I can get from that one. So next one's pretty long. Next one after that's pretty long. Next one after that's pretty long. Yeah. Let's get it. Crap. Alright, I'm almost done. I can get through this. Approaching 2 hours. Probably gonna work till 3 before I have a mental breakdown. I hope that doesn't happen. Alright. As the Great Dying took hold of the Americas, my veins look nasty. Look at that. Oh, you can when I click, you can see it's pretty nasty. Alright. As the Great Dying took hold of the Americas, it interacted with another natural phenomenon, this time one of genuinely global proportions, known as the Little Ice Age. It was a period of unusually cool temperatures that spanned much of the early modern period, much prominently in the northern hemisphere. Scholars continue to debate its causes. Some have suggested a low point in sunspot activity, leading to less intense solar irradiation of the Earth, while others have argued that the chief cause was volcanic eruptions, whose ash and gases blocked the sun's warming energy in the upper atmosphere. More recently, some scientists have linked the Little Ice Age to the demographic collapse of the Americas. The Great Dying, they argue, resulted in the desertion of large areas of Native American farmland and ended the traditional practices of forest management through burning in many regions. These changes sparked a resurgence of plant life, which in turn took large amounts of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, out of the atmosphere, contributing to global cooling. Whatever the causes, shorter growing seasons and less hospitable weather conditions adversely affected food production in the regions across the globe. So there was a little ice age. It doesn't say when it happened. continental ice age happened after, what they call it, the Great Dying. Wait, did I hear that on Jeopardy? I think I remember hearing that on Jeopardy. Happened after the Great Dying. We don't know the real cause, or the true cause, but it resulted in global cooling. Is that what it said? Didn't it say global? In global, I want to say global cool periods. What does it say? Periods? Nope. I'm just making stuff up now. Global cooling. Instead of global warming, we had global cooling. Alright, time for the next bullet point. Alright. I gotta leave space for this right here. Ooh. Can't write much about these next ones. While the onset, duration, and effects of the Little Ice Age vary from region to region, the impact of a cooler climate reaches peak in many regions in the mid-17th century, helping to spark what scholars term the General Crisis. Much of China, Europe, and North America experienced record or near-record cold winters during this period. Regions near the equator and the tropics in southern hemisphere also experienced extreme conditions and irregular rainfall, resulting, for instance, in the growth of the Sahara Desert. Whoa, what was that? Sahara Desert. Wet, cold summers reduced harvest dramatically in Europe, while severe droughts ruined crops in many other regions, especially China, which suffered its worst years of drought in the previous 5 centuries between 1637 and 1641. Difficult weather conditions accentuated other stresses in societies, leading to widespread famines, epidemics, uprisings, and wars in which millions perished. Eurasia did not escape lightly from these stresses. The collapse of the Ming dynasty in China, nearly constant warfare in Europe, and civil war in Mughal India all occurred in the context of the General Crisis, which only fully subsided when more favorable weather patterns returned in the 8th century. Is there anything there I need? Yes, there is. Global cooling resulted in record breaking cold temperatures extreme conditions. Extreme conditions and irregular rainfall. How did my average watch time? Oh, because somebody decided to stay for like a second. Somebody accidentally clicked on my video or live stream. I was here, so I gotta go here. Nor were the Americas, already devastated by the Great Dying, spared the suffering that suffering, not suffering. What am I doing? Nor were the Americas, already devastated by the Great Dying, spared from the suffering that accompanied the Little Ice Age and the general crisis of the 17th century. In central Mexico, heartland of the Aztec Empire and the center of Spanish colonial rule in this area, severe drought in the 5 years after 1639 sent the price of maize skyrocketing, left granaries empty, and many people without water, prompted an unsuccessful plot to declare Mexico's independence from Spain. Continuing drought years and the decades that followed witnessed repeated public processions of the statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who had gained a reputation for producing rain. The Caribbean region during the 1640s experienced the opposite condition: torrential rains that accompany more frequent El Niño weather patterns, which provided ideal conditions for the breeding of mosquitoes that carried both yellow fever and malaria. A Maya chronicle for 1648 noted, "There was bloody vomit and we began to die." Alright. Let's see what I can get. Yeah, this is basically just elaborating on what I last wrote. Basically, like extreme weather and rain everywhere. So it's like just giving examples, I guess. Alright, now to the next paragraph. This will be the last one for this section. Like the Great Dying, the general crisis reminds us that climate often plays an important role in shaping human history, but it also reminds us that human activity, the importation of deadly diseases to the Americas, in this case, may also help shape the climate, and that this has been true long before the 21st century. Alright, I think there's nothing there that we really need, so I'm going to erase that last bullet. And it's time to highlight. I feel like this one's going to be green. Let's see what I get. Close. Regular highlighter color. Oh, that's cool. highlighter in pink make orange. I didn't know that. I guess it's like green and like a red, yellow and red, yellow and red. That's it. Where'd I put the cap? Forgot the bottom section. The bottom one bullet point. Alright, the Columbian Exchange. Alright, I have plenty of space to put this down. It's one full page plus it's about 2 full pages and like a quarter. Alright. Wow, this first paragraph is pretty dang long. I'm like gonna get 2 out of this one. In sharply diminished third word I got wrong. In sharply diminishing the population of the Americas, the great dying and the impact of the Little Ice Age created an acute labor shortage and certainly did make room for immigrant newcomers, both colonizing Europeans and enslaved Africans. Over the several centuries of the colonial era and beyond, various combination of indigenous, European, and African people created entirely new societies in the Americas, largely replacing the many and varied cultures that had flourished before 1492. To those colonial societies, Europeans and Africans brought not only their germs and their people, but also their plants and animals. Wheat, rice, sugarcane, grapes, and many garden vegetables and fruits, as well as numerous weeds, took hold in the Americas, where they transformed the landscape and made possible a recognizably European diet and way of life. Even more revolutionary were their animals: horses, pigs, cattle, goats, and sheep, all of which were new to the Americas and multiplied spectacularly in an environment largely free of natural predators.
Whether you're craving coffee now,
These domesticated animals made possible the ranching economies and cowboy cultures of both North and South America. Horses also transformed many Native American societies, particularly in the North American West, and settled farming peoples such as the Pawnee abandoned their fields to hunt bison from horseback. In the process, women lost much of their earlier role as food producers, as a male-dominated hunting and warrior culture emerged. By environmentally and socially, these changes were nothing less than revolutionary. Alright. What can I get here? What am I at? 2 hours and 14 minutes, 15 minutes. I may be able to get this whole sheet done tonight. Alright. A combination between Europeans, indigenous people, and and enslaved Africans created new societies. New societies. Societies. I think that's how you spell it. Let's see what I can do here. Oh, something about horses, pigs, cattle, goats, and sheep. Multiplied. What am I doing? Multiplied. Multiplied rapidly in America. Allowing. No, I'm gonna. Allowing ranching economies and cowboys to take place. Alright, I think that's all I'm gonna do for that paragraph. Move this over. Let me see if it's in the middle right here. It's not really, but this works. Gonna stretch real quick. Alright. In the other direction, American food crops such as corn, potatoes, and cassava spread widely in the Eastern Hemisphere, where they provided the nutritional foundation for the immense population growth that became everywhere a hallmark of modern era. In Europe, calories derived from corn and potatoes helped push human numbers from some 60 million in 1400 to 390 million in 1900. Those Amerindian crops later provided cheap and reasonably nutritious foods for millions of industrial workers. Potatoes, especially, allowed Ireland's population to grow enormously and then condemned many of the Irish to starvation and immigration when an airborne fungus, also from the Americas, destroyed the crop in the mid-19th century. In China, corn, peanuts, and especially sweet potatoes supplemented the traditional rice and wheat to sustain China's modern population exploration. By the early 20th century, food plants of American origin represented about 20% of total Chinese food production. In Africa, corn took hold quickly and was used as a cheap food for the human cargoes of the transatlantic trade. Scholars have speculated that corn, together with peanuts and cassava, underwrote some of Africa's population growth and partially offset the population drain of the slave trade. Alright, what can I get out of this paragraph right here? Something about corn and potatoes. Corn, potatoes, and cassava. Corn, potatoes, and cassava were the main source of nutrition. And spread widely in the Eastern Hemisphere. There we go. That was basically what that all said. How many more paragraphs I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 left. And I only have space for like 3 bullet points. I'm gonna check the stats of my stream so far. These definitely aren't successful because it's just me doing nothing or doing this, but it really helps me to stream it, and I guess if you want to tune in, you can. I mean, it helps me and it doesn't hurt you. Beyond food crops, American stimulants such as tobacco and chocolate were soon used around the world. By the 17th century, how-to manuals instructed Chinese users on smoking techniques, and tobacco had become, in the words of one enamored Chinese poet, the gentleman's companion. It warms my heart and leaves my mouth feeling like a divine furnace. Ew. Tea from China and coffee from the Islamic world also spread globally, contributing to the worldwide biological exchange. Never before in human history had such a large-scale and consequential diffusion of plants and animals operated to remake the biological environment of the planet. I'm gonna write down American, what was it, tobacco? And chocolate. Were used around the world. That's all I'm gonna put. I don't have room for much more. Furthermore, the societies that developed within the American colonies drove the processes of globalization and reshaped the world economy of the early modern era. The silver mines of Mexico and Peru fueled both transatlantic and trans-Pacific commerce, encouraged Spain's unsuccessful attempt to dominate Europe, enabled Europeans to buy the Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain that they valued so highly. The plantation owners of the tropical lowland regions needed workers and found them by the millions in Africa. The Atlantic slave trade, which brought these workers to the colonies, and the sugar and cotton trade, which distributed the fruits of their labor abroad, created a lasting link among Africa, Europe, and the Americas, while scattering peoples of African origin throughout the Western Hemisphere. I don't really like this song. I'm gonna skip it. Alright. So, what can I get out of this paragraph? Shit, the silver mines, sounds domination, plantation. I don't think there's really anything here that I would need. Like, maybe scattering people of African origin throughout the Western Hemisphere. I mean, did I already list the slave trade? Yeah, I already listed that, and so yeah, I'm not going to put down anything from here. This enormous network of communication, migration, trade, disease, and the transfer of plants and animals, all generated by European colonial empires in the Americas, have been dubbed the Columbian Exchange. It gave rise to something wholly new in world history, an interacting Atlantic world connecting 4 continents. Millions of years ago, the eastern and western hemispheres had physically drifted apart, and, ecologically speaking, they had remained largely apart. Now these 2 old worlds were joined, increasingly creating a single biological regime, a new world of global dimensions. What am I gonna do? Let's see. Enormous networks of trade, communication, migration, disease, trade would go with plants and animals.
Music apps on Contour?
Sure. Find romantic
Let me
music.
see.
Hey, I was watching that.
Honey, it's our song.
May I have this dance?
Gross. Get a room.
Migration,
I'm
disease.
officially traumatized.
With Contour TV from Cox,
In
you'll find more than your favorite music apps. You'll find your together.
European.
Your friends are over. The music is pumping,
Colonial
and requests are coming in fast.
empires.
Then something hits you harder than a bass drop. It's tough to DJ with only shuffle play,
Known
but it's easy to take control with Spotify Premium.
as
You can pick any song
the
anytime
Colombian
you like. Ready to get the party started? Tap the banner to learn more.
Exchange. Let me see if it's back. Yep, music's back. Alright, got one more paragraph left and room for like one sentence. Or like 2 lines. Maybe 1. Alright. The long-term benefits of this Atlantic network were very unequally distributed. Western Europeans were clearly the dominant players in the Atlantic world, and their societies reaped the greatest rewards. Mountains of new information flooded into Europe, shaking up conventional understandings of the world and contributing to a revolutionary new way of thinking known as the Scientific Revolution. The wealth of the colonies, precious metals, natural resources, new food crops, slave labor, financial profits, colonial markets, provided one of the foundations on which Europe's Industrial Revolution was built. The colonies also provided an outlet for the rapidly growing population of European societies and represented an enormous extension of European civilization. In short, the colonial empires of the Americas greatly facilitated a changing global balance of power, which now thrust the previously marginal Western Europeans into an increasingly central and commanding role on the world stage. Without a new world to deliver economic balance in the old, concluded a prominent world historian, Europe would have remained inferior, as ever, in wealth and power to the great civilizations of Asia. Alright, what can I get from this? New World findings in Europe known as Scientific Revolution. Boom. I'm done. Well, actually, I'm gonna have to come back to this book in a little bit. What color do I get this time? Yep, green. There we go. Now I gotta get the colors that I do have, which is pink, orange, yellow, and green. Alright. First would be orange. Is this important? I don't think it's that important, to be completely honest. I know this one has some important stuff. Europe had advantage for American. Definitely important. That's not as important. Europeans, easy transportation. Hernando Cortez. I think this is actually important. Europeans. Most of the Spanish army come from I think this is pretty dang important. It's brought diseases. Alright. Now time to highlighter color. Biggest consequences. It's collapse, yep. Long isolation from the effort. Yep. Suffering See the start in Europe. Christians wanted the native to die. That's not as important. Little Ice Age happened after the Great Dying. Global cooling resulted in record cold temperatures extreme. This one's also important. Because they rapidly is a good word. Alright. We go on to green. Combination between Europeans and horses, pigs, yes. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Tobacco and chocolate. Alright, now that I have everything highlighted, I can put these away finally, at least for now on this paper. Go through and count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Really 13. And I have 9 spots right here. Alright, so go through and pick the 9. Start with European technology. I can probably put these both into one. Europe. Traveled to America with ease. I wouldn't know. Travel to America with advanced tech and innovations. Europeans traveled to gain. Yep. Traveled to gain natural resources and grow economy. Grow global economy. Here we go, making it sound smart. Already got 3 into 2. The diseases. Europe brought. Hold on. I can combine this and this. Europe brought diseases rapidly decreasing. What's it? Native population numbers. Population everywhere. No, just population Alright. Most of Spain's army was natives from alliances made with the natives. Largest consequence (2 hours and 45) of travel to America was collapse of Native American societies. Collapse of Native societies. What am I at? I need 4 more. 1, 2, 3. I'm just gonna say that one's. Yeah. Actually, I didn't say that. So I'm not going to put a check by it, but I'm just not going to write it. The Little Ice Age. I can combine these two.
What if the Earth just opens up and trees go down and then entire roads go?
I'm Flora Lichtman from Every Little Thing, the podcast that answers your burning questions. Like, will I get swallowed by a sinkhole?
When I saw it in the road, I was just like, this is it. What am I going to do?
Find out more on Every Little Thing. Tap now to listen on
Little
Spotify.
Ice Age.
This is Matt Siraj, 4th generation owner of Community Coffee. My great-grandfather named it Community, just out of appreciation and respect for his friends and neighbors. And for 100 years, our family has been about 2 things.
Very
coffee and great people.
Cold.
And as America's #1 family-owned retail coffee brand, we believe it's our responsibility to continue to give them the best tasting coffee experience possible. And it's why we're excited for you to discover your new favorite blend. Look for Community Coffee at a store near you.
Auto Trader presents the best things to happen in the history of things that happened. First,
had regular
wheels, then the
rainfall.
Internet. And finally, Auto Trader with the Kelly Blue Book Price Advisor. For the first time in history,
And
you
then
can be confident in the
horses,
price of your
pigs,
new car,
cattle, sheep,
even if you don't know anything about the
corn.
price of cars.
How many
Auto
spots do I
Trader,
have left?
the
3.
only one with Kelly Blue Book.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then the one I won't put down is the one about cowboys. Main source of nutrition in America was, what was it? Corn, potatoes, and cassava. Potatoes and cassava. Go ahead and check that off. American tobacco and chocolate. American chocolate and tobacco. Did I spell it right? Tobacco. No, C, 2 C's. Traded around the world. Around the world. Enormous networks of trade, communication, disease in European colonial empires known as the Columbian Exchange. Enormous network of connections known as Columbian Exchange. As the Columbian Exchange. There we go. Got the 9 most important. Now I gotta pick the 3 most important order. Like, at least something. Dude, why is my knee hitch so bad? Alright, it is 2 hours and 47 minutes. I'm barely gonna have enough time to finish this. I'm not gonna get started on the next one though. Alright, let's see. Europe traveled. So Europe. Alright. Europe. Going. Colonizing America. And using local land and food to trade land and food and natural resources. Is my mic still down? Natural resources to trade food, natural resources to trade with others to increase economy. Economy. Alright. Disease killed the natives. Most of them. Killed the natives. was brought by the Europeans. And then there's the hold on, I'm gonna put a little arrow here. I need to put like disease and natural phenomenon and natural phenomenon. Gotta make sure to draw the arrow. And then there is trade with the world. No, maybe Europe. Connected America to the rest of the world. Rest of the modern world. Of the modern world. Boom. I got 2 hours and 52 minutes. Should be able to finish this up. Question seeking clarity. Alright, she put these on here just to make me think. Let me see. Oh, since I have a paper now, I can zoom in a little bit. Let me get on the view. Actually, it's going to be like right here. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Question seeking clarity. Hold on, this would be in the class discussion. Why were the natives not hostile toward invaders? Towards invaders. European invaders. I should specify that. Invaders. It's a question. Let's see. Questions seeking clarity and let's see. Oh. That's going into this clarity. Did any American diseases greatly affect Europeans? There's you a question. Let's see. Oh. How did potatoes end up in Ireland? Like, were they before, or did they like trade him to him? That's definitely a clarity. Diseases, natural resources. Would you consider the conquest? No, what? Hold on, what would you consider the conquest on a scale of 1 through 10? What would you rate? What would you rate the conquest? Let's go 1 to 10. This is the best thing I've come up with yet. And I'm at 56 minutes. And I'm completely done with this one. So I can go ahead and locate the place in the book that I need to do this one on and put a bookmark on it. So how much time I have. Maybe see how long it is. Dang, this is 9 pages. This is going to be the longest section yet. Time to zoom back out. Boop. There we go. Alright, 563. Right here. I gotta see about how much I need to read. Let's see. So that plus this, that's about 2 full pages, 3 full pages, 4 full pages, 5 full pages, half a page. Hold on, what was that? 2, 3, 4, 5. About 6. A little bit more. 7. So like 8 full pages that I'd have to read. Ooh. I really would have to watch what I write on this. Give myself a warning. Write small. Only write important details. Alright, so I gave myself a fair warning. And I'm also gonna be streaming tomorrow after school. Probably as soon as I get home, so I can go ahead and finish this thing up, because this is due Friday. So it hasn't been fun at all. I've hated every single bit of this, but having somebody to talk to, or a stream to just talk to, is, I do this because it helps me, because it's like I'm talking to someone, it's like I'm working through it. It's just a lot better to me. So